Most fans of the Martin Scorsese movie Goodfellas can tell you that the character Paulie Cicero is based on Paul Vario, Jimmy Conway is based on Jimmy Burke, and Tommy DeVito is based on Tommy DeSimone. But what about some of the more minor characters such as Frenchy, Jimmy Two Times, Johnny Roast Beef? Who inspired these individuals? Let's check it out. Welcome to OC Shorts, bringing you detailed historical snapshots of the American Mafia and other organised crime. Feel free to subscribe if you like that sort of thing. Today, we're going to take a quick look at the real-life inspirations for some of the minor characters in the classic movie Goodfellas. As mentioned, most fans of the Martin Scorsese movie are fully aware that the characters of Paulie Cicero, Jimmy Conway and Tommy DeVito are based on Lucchese captain Paul Vario and associates Jimmy Burke and Tommy DeSimone respectively. When Martin Scorsese, along with Nicholas Pileggi, who penned the book Wise Guy that the movie is based on, wrote the screenplay together, they took inspiration for some characters from the real-life individuals who were involved in the events portrayed in the film. However, they also used a whole lot of artistic license and made up several characters, or just used names of actual mobsters who weren't even connected with the story. On top of this, Henry Hill, whose life the book and film is based on, tended to exaggerate some events, and the roles that certain individuals played. Bearing all this in mind, let's take a look at some of the minor characters in the movie and see who they are based on. Frenchy, portrayed by actor Mike Starr, is based on real-life mob associate Robert Bobby McMahon. In the book Wise Guy, Henry Hill states of Bobby McMahon, "Bobby McMahon, the cargo foreman, was one of my best customers. He also used to come across stuff once in a while, and we'd buy perfume, clothes and jewellery from him. Bobby McMahon had been with Air France so long, his nickname was Frenchy, and there wasn't too much about the whole cargo operation he didn't know." As shown in the movie, Frenchy was the inside man when on April the 8th, 1967, Henry Hill stole $480,000 from the Air France cargo building. Frenchy was a low-level criminal associate of Jimmy Burke's crew. In 1972, Frenchy had been charged with attempted mail hijacking at Kennedy Airport. And in 1977, he was convicted, along with a man called John Ciaccio, of hijacking a truck. However, neither men served time, due to a retrial being ordered, after it was revealed a court officer had delivered unauthorized instructions to the jurors during deliberations. With regards to the infamous Lufthansa heist in December 1978, Frenchy McMahon wasn't actually involved in carrying out the robbery. In the film, Ray Liotta's voiceover says, "Frenchy and Joe Buddha had to round up the workers." However, in reality, it is believed that Frenchy helped supply some of the equipment used in the heist, but did not actually participate. In the film Goodfellas, Robert Frenchy McMahon's dead body was shown being found in the back of a garbage truck. However, in reality, he was shot to death in a car alongside Joe Manry on May 17, 1979. One newspaper reports, "Manry, who has been identified as a member of the Antonio Tony Ducks Corallo crime family, was found slumped in the front seat of a 1972 Buick parked on Schenectady Avenue near Avenue M. Alongside Manry was his bodyguard Robert Frenchy McMahon, 42, of Wantar, Long Island. Both men had been killed with single shots in the back of the head." Joe Manry, the man shot to death with Frenchy McMahon, is the character known as Joe Buddha in the film. Joseph Joe Buddha Manry was allegedly also known as Joe Gas Station Joey Manry after once holding up a gas station. Manry supposedly did participate in the Lufthansa heist and reportedly pistol-whipped one of the guards. Some sources suggest he was murdered because he was complaining that he had only received half of his $200,000 share of the robbery. In the film, the character of Joe Buddha is played by actor Clem Caserta. Tuddy Cicero, brother of Paulie Cicero in the film, was based on Vito Tuddy Vario, brother of Lucchese captain Paul Vario. Tuddy Vario was the second youngest of the four Vario brothers. It was Tuddy Vario who hired a young Henry Hill to work at the cab stand. Vito Tuddy Vario had served in the Korean War and had lost a leg in the conflict. Nicholas Pileggi would write of Tuddy, "Even though he had adapted to his disability, he still couldn't move about as swiftly as he wished. Tuddy needed someone to help clean out the cabs and limos." It is unclear if Vito Vario was ever inducted into the Lucchese crime family like his brothers. He was born in 1928 and would die in 1988. In the film, the character of Tuddy was portrayed by Frank DeLeo. Frankie Carbone, played by actor Frank Cicero, is believed to have been based on mobster Angelo Sepe. Angelo Sepe was born in Ozone Park, Queens on January 14, 1941. He had an arrest record including a 1967 robbery, as well as possession of narcotics and weapons. In 1972, he was sent to Lewisburg Penitentiary on a 10-year sentence for bank robbery. He was released on parole after serving around 5 years. Angelo Sepe is strongly believed to have been one of the gunmen who participated in the 1978 Lufthansa heist. And he was also one of the first arrested, as was widely reported. The FBI arrested 2 Long Island men yesterday in connection with the $5.8 million robbery of a Lufthansa Airlines cargo terminal at Kennedy Airport on December the 11th, the first arrests in the biggest robbery in US history. None of the money was recovered, sources said. The FBI announced the arrest of Angelo Sepe of Mattituck and Ozone Park. Sources said he was one of the ski mask gang that robbed the terminal. He was charged with theft from an interstate shipment. However, Angelo Sepe was later released and the charges dropped. Shortly after the famous heist, Angelo Sepe, along with Tommy DeSimone, is believed to have participated in the murder of Parnell Stacks Edwards. In Goodfellas, Frankie Carbone, the Sepe-based character, is found dead in a meat truck, with Ray Liotta's famous voiceover stating, "It made him sick to have to turn over money to the guys who stole it. He'd rather whack 'em. Anyway, what did I care? I wasn't asking for anything, and besides, Jimmy was making nice money with me through my Pittsburgh connections. But still, months after the robbery, they were finding bodies all over. When they found Carbone in the meat truck, he was frozen so stiff it took them 2 days to thaw him out for the autopsy." In reality, this didn't happen to Angelo Sepe. He actually survived the bodies mounting up after the Lufthansa heist. However, 5 years later, Angelo Sepe was murdered in July 1984, along with his 19-year-old girlfriend. One newspaper reported, "Angelo Sepe, a suspect in the $5.8 million 1978 Lufthansa heist who once bragged, 'When my time comes, my own people will kill me,' was found shot to death gangland style yesterday with a female companion in the basement of a Brooklyn apartment house." Sepe, who reportedly had been the target of a recent unsuccessful assassination attempt, is the 11th person connected with the Lufthansa robbery at Kennedy Airport, either to be rubbed out by the underworld or to vanish, the FBI said. 7 have been slain and 4 are missing. None of the Lufthansa money has ever been recovered. Sepe, 42, had been shot several times in the face, police said. The woman, identified as Joanne Lombardo, 19, had been shot once with a slug that entered her upper throat and passed through her head. Despite linking Angelo Sepe's murder to the Lufthansa heist, it is rumoured that he was murdered because he robbed a mob-backed drug dealer. Interestingly, there actually was a man found in a meat truck. His name was Richard Eaton. Eaton was laundering the money from the Lufthansa heist, but made the mistake of trying to skim some of the cash from Jimmy Burke. Morrie Kessler, played by actor Chuck Lowe, is based on Marty Krugman. Like the character in the film, Marty Krugman did in fact own a wig shop and salon called For Men Only. You can see an advertisement for the shop here. Marty Krugman also operated as a bookmaker. A man called Louis Werner, who worked as a cargo supervisor at Lufthansa, would provide Jimmy Burke and Marty Krugman the tip about the Lufthansa heist opportunity, allegedly through a man called Frank Menner, who Louis Werner used to place bets with. According to Henry Hill, Marty Krugman continually pestered Jimmy Burke for his full cut of the Lufthansa heist. And then, on January the 6th, 1979, Marty Krugman disappeared. Stax Edwards, portrayed by Samuel L. Jackson, is based on Parnell Stax Edwards. Edwards was a hanger-on to the Jimmy Burke crew that hung out of Robert's Lounge on Lefferts Boulevard in South Ozone Park. Henry Hill would say of Stax in the book Wise Guy, "There was Stax Edwards, a black credit card booster who wanted to join the Mafia. He played a blues guitar on weekends." Henry Hill would say how Stax Edwards would utilise stolen or counterfeit credit cards along with fake IDs to purchase goods in stores that were under the authorisation limit, i.e. products priced at an amount that stores wouldn't phone through to confirm the credit card authorisation. Henry Hill said, "Stax Edwards, who was a tall, skinny black guy who hung out with the crew, was an under-the-limit master. He'd do a day at a shopping centre with a panel truck until he ran out of room. Then he had an army of people who used to go out and sell his stuff in factories, or he'd take it to small mum-and-pop stores in Harlem, or places in New Jersey that would buy his whole truckload." In the late 1970s, Stax Edwards was used as muscle by Bonanno family mobster Vincent Asaro to intimidate Bonanno associate Peter "Bud" Cicero. In 2015, Cicero, who had turned informant, would testify about what happened. As one paper reported, Bonanno hood Vincent Asaro rounded up his crew to do another job, punish another mobster for shooting a dog. An accused killer who apparently loves animals more than people, Asaro was furious when Peter "Bud" Cicero shot a guard dog protecting his nephew's auto body shop. Testifying Wednesday at Asaro's racketeering trial, Cicero said the dog went after him because he just returned from a robbery and was wearing a disguise. "The dog zeroed in on me, jumped over the desk, I guess he didn't recognise me, and started chewing on my arm," the 60-year-old mob turncoat testified. "I shot him in the head. He mauled my arm. I had no choice." Peter Cicero would then say that later that night, Vincent Asaro, Jimmy Burke, Tommy DeSimone, Stax Edwards and Frank Burke showed up at Cicero's home, and a screaming Asaro said he was going to have Cicero killed for shooting the dog. Asaro was irrational and wouldn't listen to Cicero's explanation. Asaro was upset because the shop was co-owned by his nephew, and Asaro felt the dog belonged to him. Ultimately, Peter Cicero's life was spared after a sit-down. Parnell Stax Edwards was tasked with disposing of the van used in the Lufthansa heist, but he allegedly went home, got high and fell asleep, rather than taking the van to get compacted at a junkyard. Henry Hill recalls how Stax Edwards had no idea how dangerous his mistake was. Hill states, "There was a big spread of food, and I took out some money to pay. We're all having a good time when Stax Edwards sees my wad and starts to do his black dude number. How come I'm fucking broke and all of you whiteys from the Mafia got the money? He starts joking about the Mafia guys who got all those millions from the airport." Stax was crazy. That day in the papers, the cops had found the truck and it had prints all over it. The papers said they found the ski masks, a leather jacket and a footprint from a Puma sneaker. I knew Stax was supposed to have taken the truck to a guy we knew in Jersey and compacted it. Finished it. Instead, he'd gotten stoned and left the van on East 98th Street and Linden Boulevard in Canarsie, about a mile and a half from the airport. Then the jerk went home to sleep. The next day the cops found it, and now it's in the papers. Stax should have been running for his life, but instead he's in Roberts screwing around. The guy either had a death wish or he couldn't believe he was in trouble. The truth is that nobody ever knows just how much trouble he's in, and here's Stax, and there's a chance his prints are all over the truck. And he's carrying on about how the Mafia was getting all the money. As Stax and Lenny carried on, I looked at Paulie. He didn't look happy. Jimmy was watching Paulie's every move. I knew that Stax had signed his death warrant that day. Jimmy gave the order, but it was Paulie who gave Jimmy the look. That weekend, Tommy DeSimone and Angelo Sepe went to see Stax. It was easy. The guy was still in bed. They did it fast. 6 in the head. Pete the Killer, who was briefly shown in the film and portrayed by Peter Cicero, is based on real-life Lucchese mobster Peter Abinanti. Despite the intimidating name, he was known as Pete the Killer because he was a killer dresser. Abinanti was very close with Paul Vario, and the pair had both been inducted into the Lucchese family in the 1950s. They both served in the crew of Salvatore Don Churi Coriali. I cover the life and times of Pete the Killer in a previous video, and have posted the link to this in the comments below. Jimmy Two Times is a fictitious character who is not based on anyone connected with Paul Vario or Jimmy Burke. However, the inspiration for his name may well have come from a mobster called Johnny Echoes Campopiano. Campopiano was a prolific drug dealer who worked out of Pleasant Avenue in East Harlem. He earned his nickname Johnny Echoes due to a habit of saying phrases twice. I have made a previous video dedicated to the life of Johnny Echoes Campopiano and have posted the link to this in the comments below. Johnny Roast Beef was a character played by Johnny Williams and believed to be based on Louis Roast Beef Cafora, also known as Fat Louie. Cafora owned a parking lot in Brooklyn and had met Jimmy Burke when they were both serving time in Lewisburg. Louis Cafora would allegedly be one of the gunmen who participated in the Lufthansa heist. In the movie after the heist, Johnny Roast Beef's character purchased a pink Cadillac for his wife Joanna as a wedding gift. In reality, this was a white Cadillac, but it was a wedding present for his bride-to-be. In Goodfellas, Johnny Roast Beef and his wife are found shot to death inside their pink Cadillac. In real life, on March the 8th, 1979, Louis Cafora and his wife Joanna disappeared. Their bodies have never been found. I have deliberately not included William Billy Bats Benvina, who was portrayed by Frank Vincent, as I have a dedicated video on Billy Bats planned for the future. I hope you found that interesting. Thanks for watching.